Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Star OS Weekend Review podcast. This is podcast number 71. Any articles or videos mentioned can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Look for News Recap 120. So just a quick summary of things to talk about. And actually, there's only one thing to talk about, which was the Star OS Town Hall that they had this past week. So basically, I'll be going through some of my thoughts and analysis on that town hall. So before I get started, just two things I wanted to mention that I'm working on Star Atlas. One is my merch store, Star Atlas merch store that I have at intergalacticgear.com. You can go there. I do have so far just some mugs available, but I'm slowly building out the product line there with different Star Atlas items. So please go to intergalacticgear.com and check that out if you're interested. If you're not interested in purchasing things, but you would like to give me some feedback, I do have a merch survey there for future merch to put on the store. So you can fill that out too. Second thing is what I'm calling my non-guild guild, or more, probably need to rename it. But anyways, it's a guild, but it's not a guild. It's a DAC. But basically, it's just a community for other Star Atlas gamers who don't want to join guilds, don't really find the Star Atlas Discord that engaging because they can't follow the threads on discussions and things like that. So this will be a more of a community for asynchronous communication. Won't be chat-based. It'll be more of threads. It'll have email alerts so you can follow threads and discussions that you're interested in. You can go to intergalacticcoalition.com, and I do have an interest survey there. You can fill that out. I will admit, I will be upfront, this will be a paid community that's primarily to offset the cost of the software that allows for all those features, but also to offset some of my time to set some of these things up. So anyways, let's get in the content section. As I mentioned, there was nothing really pre-town hall, which was on Wednesday, so pretty much everything is about the town hall. There were some great content creators that have already provided some of that. So first, if you go to, again, herald.com, look for a News Recap 120, you'll find all these links. So Star Atlas TV recorded the town hall, so if you want to listen to it its entirety, I think it's around 2.5 hours, but you can cut that down if you want to listen at a higher speed, so you can listen to it, all the things. Some summaries. Afia Funcracker did his summary, so I'll link to that. Kriggs from Hologram News Network also did a recap. And then both Beyond the Horizon and Metaverse Explorer did videos of their thoughts, so you can check those out. So those are 4 great resources if you want to learn, find out the details that are given there. I, on the other hand, will provide kind of just my thoughts and some analysis, so not really going into each individual thing, and definitely not sort of the details. So hopefully, just my thoughts. But anyway, so to go ahead and get into that. So in general, again, just to put this into context, these are just my thoughts, just my analysis. You and many others could totally think differently, and that's fine. These are just things I'm thinking of and my reactions to what's coming out there. So in the end, to each his own. If you're not interested or don't find my thoughts correct, that's fine. They're just that. So first, on a positive note, definitely think it was great to have a mid-year update. Perfect timing for that. Kind of I guess they didn't really talk much about where we've been, more of what they're looking at for some of the things coming out the rest of the year. So I think, again, that was great to do. However, I have to say, in my opinion, it was kind of a very mixed update. And I guess, again, there was lots of information, but it was just that. It was information. Really nothing much coming in the short term, some things in the future. And again, I'll get all into details, but sort of just a kind of executive summary, I guess. So again, I kind of came away with like, okay, but nothing changes really going forward. So anyway, so here's just some highlights that I either found good or found, shall we say, lacking, or I guess just not what I was expecting or whatever. So one thing they did mention is they did hire some new employees. In fact, there was 11 full-time employees. Funcracker from AFIA has a great list of all the job titles. But I think that's a really great development, that the fact that they shows the team has some revenue now and they're willing to handle more employees. At least I hope they're not hiring to immediately have to get rid of somebody if they don't hit revenue goals or something. So I think that was really good. I think there's also some contract employees helping with the crew cards. And again, that makes total sense that you would bring on some subcontractors or freelancers just to help with a major push. So, but again, full-time employees, that shows to me anyway, stability with the company, that you're willing to expand and that the cash flows there to do that. So they did mention the economic report, the quarterly one. That was great. But again, I guess I have to just continue to say, I just have a hard time getting my mind around all these economic concepts. It's just not how I think. But I'm glad it's there. I'm glad there's an economy. It's just same thing reading again. And I think they even put in there, it's designed for an academic audience. And so I'm, again, glad they're economists. That's what they do. Nothing wrong with that. Just really hard for me to get much into it. I did read the executive summary, so that was kind of cool. So one new thing they did announce that came out of the blue, which is great, though I guess now you think about it, they have been kind of mentioning wanting to do some sort of in-person event or a conference. So they are calling it the Star Atlas Summit. It will run concurrently with Breakpoint, Solana Breakpoint, that's coming up September, October, I don't know, in a few months, fall. So, but I guess they're doing, in effect, a one-day conference that's, an offshoot of Breakpoint. They did mention and stress that it's not a paid conference. You don't even have to have a Breakpoint conference badge. You can just come in, so that's kind of cool. So it's, again, I think it's a great place. They talked about having like 8 hours of content, maybe a gaming tournament or something. So again, details are in the other places. So again, I think that's really great. Also shows that they have revenue, cash flow to put on something like this. I mean, a conference booth isn't free, but definitely a conference. Again, maybe they're getting a break on the conference rental fees or something because it's part of Breakpoint. I'm not really sure, but they are sending the team and many team members. I thought I saw somewhere 25. Don't quote me on that, but that's a significant outlay of flights and hotels and per diem and things like that. So I think that's great. Again, it shows that their Star Atlas, the revenue is there where they're willing to invest in these kind of marketing and community outreach things. So I think that's really great. On the other hand, it's in Singapore. I don't even know where Singapore, Malaysia, Singapore, I don't know what country it's in. Maybe it's not a country. It might be one of those nation states like Hong Kong. Anyways, whatever. It's in Singapore. It's in Southeast Asia. I'm in the United States, even though I'm on the Pacific coast, and I know any tickets across the Pacific are not cheap. So, I mean, great. Again, if you're in Southeast Asia, maybe I don't know how flights from Korea or Australia or something like that work out. But anyway, so yeah, so that's. I mean, I guess Europe's expensive too. Anyways. It's not in my country, and thus plane tickets and conversion rates for money and hotels and things like that. But the other thing that I realized, and it makes sense because Solana Breakpoint is Solana's conference yearly. It's about Solana protocol, blockchain protocol. But this is a blockchain conference, which just happens to have some gaming aspects, or I shouldn't say gaming aspects, gaming projects built upon that, which is great. But if you're trying to reach more people going to a blockchain conference, again, are you a blockchain project or are you a video game? Now, again, I know that's kind of whatever, but again, if you're trying to reach people, maybe go to a video game conference. But anyways, to each his own. Good thing, regardless of all those, is that they said that will be streamed. So the Star Atlas community will have access to the content and things like that. So I think that's really great. The next topic that came up, but it really didn't come up, was crew packs. And it was announced that they have decided not to announce any dates, which is not an announcement, but it's an announcement of not having an announcement. They did mention, again, they really want to focus on getting the quality of the different outputs. So all three factions represented there, really want to make sure that it launches well and things like that. And I totally understand all of that. I totally get it. I'm sure once it's out, it'll all make sense. But given that this is the mid-year, crew packs were announced back at the beginning of the year. Crossroads conference? It was said Q1, Q2's over, and we have nothing. Now, on an official Star Atlas Twitter recap, it said, quote, coming soon. Oh, okay. Why do you even put that stuff? I'm sorry. It's getting to the point where it just doesn't mean anything. So, but it was also mentioned they're going to do a marketing effort for it, which again makes a ton of sense, but we haven't heard anything about a marketing effort. We haven't seen the marketing effort. So if you're going to just roll that out and 2 days later, and, don't you want to build up hype and interest and things like that? So again, I just don't know how to align these things anymore of when these things are going to come out, efforts being done. One thing that was mentioned that I hadn't really put two and two together before was that the crew packs are actually an asset offering, which means this is a revenue generation event for Star Atlas. I kind of mentioned this would be the last one. Again, that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with selling things to make money. It's what the ships were, what the posters were, and now we have the crew. So again, it all makes sense. It's just, again, I guess I bought into the hype and I bought the 10 crew pack, but I don't even know how many weeks or months ago that was. So things have been dribbling out for this, but again, we still don't have anything. There was a small thing mentioned about crew pack, something about this faction leaders. Apparently, if you own specific cards, you'll be able to combine those into a raffle or something, and then you get to be a faction leader for a year and have special access. Interesting, but I mean, this goes to the smallest minority of people within Star Atlas. So again, cool idea, but yeah, whatever. Moving on. So this is, again, I'm really just having trouble following these things. So we're no longer going to do release R2.2. So I guess this is all a showroom, but now we're going to do preseason, and then we're going to do season 0. I don't even know what these mean anymore. And I think, again, for as much as I think Star Atlas has had clever branding with score and scream and different words like the Sage, I don't know what this is anymore. What's season 0? What's preseason? Are you making a game? Is it something? Is it Star Atlas? I don't know. Anyway, so these titles don't mean anything, but it feels like what's happening basically is the Unreal Engine 5, UE5, is the game going forward. So again, regardless of the title, it's all about what's coming in the platform running on, the product running on Unreal Engine 5. So many things were mentioned that might be coming, but again, we've been hearing about stuff coming in the showroom for a long time. Now, one thing I did realize is, so the showroom is what we played Sage in, and Sage, and I've said this before, I think it was really great. I felt kind of that not moving that forward or keeping that going was a missed opportunity. Well, it sounds like Surge is coming back and other gameplay styles within that. So I guess we're going to get basically a always-on shooter. Okay, maybe again the racing. But again, and you can go ahead and look at the other content, either the recaps or the videos, and you can get more details. But again, until we see something. And, we got some part of the showroom updated last Christmas. We got Surge, and now that's been it. So again, maybe all this stuff. And again, it sounded like they were focusing on Breakpoint to show something off, maybe make it available. I don't know. It was all great information. Glad we were shared all of the information, but that's it. It was just information. There's nothing. And again, there's so many things to come. So I guess we'll wait and see. There was briefly mention again about Fleet Command. I still don't know what it is. I'm sorry. I get that it's maybe an RTS, but you can zoom in and out from first-person view like the showroom. But again, it is a showroom. Now, pretty sure Fleet Command is within UE5. So, again, it's a word. It's a play mode. I just don't know. The other part that's really still confusing to me is that somehow the functionality in Fleet Command will be the same that matches in Sage, which is, I guess, the browser game. And it sounds like, well, we're holding off, I guess, announcement a couple weeks ago, they're holding off any more development Sage until they can bring Fleet Command to the same level. But of course, none of us have ever seen Fleet Command or have it in the showroom. Sorry, I'm going to start calling it showroom because that's, again, words, in the UE5. So, okay, that's great. But given that we've never seen anything, still don't know much about it, it starts to make this sound like this is really far off. Plus, I don't know what the gameplay mode is. Is it going to be that the movement around to mine things, that's now going to be in UE5 instead of the browser? Again, I'll just stop there because I really just don't know what it is. So more information would be great. They also did mention they're going to update the marketplace to a newer version, which makes total sense, and some improvements in how things are dealt with there. So again, all seems great. They did have one totally new introduction of something called Project Gallia. And it later was noted as experimental, and so I guess there's lots of experimental stuff within the current UE5 thing. But it basically sounds like it is the ability to move between galaxies or planets, so deep space travel, which I guess if you think about it in the UE5 context, it's so we can go, like, if you think of the current thing, the showroom, you basically can fly around a small part of the Mud space station, and that's pretty much it. But we know, like, for example, there's an ONI space station being developed and other planets, so this will allow us to go between it. So, yeah, cool. That's what I always thought we were going to work on. So maybe they're getting a little closer. They showed a video and things were moving. Like part of it was showing coming down from space to the planet and how that would actually work. So again, all great, but with the tag experimental mode, okay, I mean, guess we'll see someday. One other thing they did mention was ship landing, but it was mentioned very quickly and very vaguely, and that third parties developing it. And I guess as soon as I heard, well, maybe the end of the year, I just kind of whatever. But later I was thinking about it. Who's going to lend ships? I mean, and what are they going to do when they lend them? I mean, the only thing really right now that has any sort of replay is Sage, but if you use the Sly Assistant, I don't know why I need another human to move my ships around. So again, I get the long-term concept of lending out your ships, but in the short term, anybody who has a ship who could do an outsource to someone who then does something, get the concept, but I don't know where the gameplay is to make any of this matter. Again, using Sly Assistant now, I can do a few things. I don't know why I need another human. We should use tools for these things. But anyways, it was mentioned so quickly, I don't want to put a lot of stake in it. But again, it just made me realize, again, this whole concept of even if we could lend ships, what are those ships going to do that they can't do already? So anyways, so the final thing they left with, and I don't know if they intentionally did, they kind of did the Apple's one more thing, was the announcement of the DAO. So, again, as people in Star Atlas community know, that's a distributed autonomous organization, is the idea that the players, the people involved will have a say in things. It has the ability to present proposals and get them voted on for people that own Polis. So this is sort of the aspect of Star Atlas. This is more about the politics and the governance. So that's great. No one, and again, I think that was kind of the key, was no one had even thought this was coming. So they kind of mentioned that it's going to be released. Something's going to be released on Monday, and it'll allow for some of the new proposals that they already have ready to go and get voting on it. And then they mentioned there'll be a council of people, Star House community members, that can be voted. And then some idea of maybe taking some of the DAO treasury and either sponsoring people or lending. I'm not really sure. Again, and it was fine. I mean, they're going to announce on Monday. But after it kind of sunk in, I was like, this sounds very limited in scope. And in fact, they even mentioned that it won't really be things, and some proposals won't even be allowed to move forward. So again, we'll see what comes out on Monday and what transpires in the week ahead. But I have to admit, I think community is going to be really disappointed with this scaled back version. I guess there's something to do with your Polis, and you'll have the ability to vote and discuss, but if the parameters on what can be even proposed are controlled, then, I mean, it sounds more like just a poll and a survey than really governance and community-led. So, again, I don't want to be completely negative right out of the gate, and we'll see what happens. But I don't know, this feels a lot like the DAC rollout that happened in December, where, hey, we got the DACs and people can register, and then a couple weeks later, everybody had finished registering, and I mean, I haven't even gone back to the website. Nobody talks about it anymore. So I guess it's here, but that's all it is. So, but again, we'll see what happens on Monday. So to just wrap up this thing, I did have some just kind of random thoughts that didn't really fit in with kind of the structure of the presentation. So they did mention, and it came up a few times again, they're going to change their focus on about getting new users, which I think is totally great. Kind of that's why they're having the conference. That's why they're focusing much more on the UE5 version, because the browser version is hard to get into, but they haven't really done anything yet on marketing and onboarding. So it seems like, I mean, there definitely needs a growing community to keep everything else growing. And nothing wrong with this kind of change in focus. But, again, we'll have to wait and see. And the town hall was not to that audience, so I guess we'll wait and see, how this will be. And again, maybe all this is about the new version of the UE5 and being more of a public release and things like that. So we'll see. Related to Sage, which again I always thought made a lot of sense as a browser one, they mentioned that at some point it's going to go away. So I guess that was the key. That sure sounds like the browser version of Star Atlas. Again, just realize these names really don't matter anymore. What's Sage? What's Showroom? What's Fleet Command? I mean, they're just words. It sounds like, again, the browser version will be going away. But here's the thing that got me. When they said the UE5 has a capability of doing pixel streaming. And I think I understand what that means. It's, again, where the idea that the computing power is in the cloud and then you just stream the thing down to your device. So all the computations are done elsewhere. And this isn't a brand new concept, but I've heard of no other game doing this. Console games, you download the game and it runs on the box. Obviously, PC gaming. I mean, UE5 totally makes sense. Mobile makes sense. Browser makes sense. This just doesn't make sense. It's not going to be free. I mean, you're going to have to pay for those cloud resources. Now, maybe Star Atlas subsidizes that. I don't know. But point to another game that's doing this. Now, again, I'm not totally into every little thing, and there's nothing wrong with new technology. I mean, blockchain gaming itself is, but the browser game works. I mean, right now I'm playing it on a browser on old 5-7-year-old laptops, I'm sure with a little mobile friendliness if it's not already there. I mean, it could work on a smartphone and things like that. So, I mean, pixel streaming, sure, sounds great, but I'm sorry, I just don't get it. Or it's not that I don't get the technology, I just don't get the reliance upon this. But again, if you just want to say we only want to develop on UE5, that's fine, that's great. But I think, again, there's a lot of platforms that this just isn't going to run on. So, and that leads me to the next kind of round of thought is that I'm starting to realize more and more that Star Atlas is really dependent upon 3 technologies that they don't control. One is the blockchain. We saw that with the congestion issues. We definitely are seeing that with fees now. Metagravity for the network support. Again, we hit 1,000 players in the Surge test, but it was unplayable. I know it was the first thing. 300 players was much better. I'm sure Metagravity is going to be improving their technology, but again, it's new technology. And now they've added this pixel streaming, which we've never seen in real life. So any one of those, and there is no game. And I guess it doesn't matter if 2 go down. one goes down is enough. So anyway, so Sage as a concept, as an independent game, I guess, sure feels dead. Now, again, maybe I'm wrong, but partly I guess it's just, I still just don't understand this Fleet Command. But all those things we've seen at previous presentations, I mean, there's a Sage game manual. Does any of that apply? Maybe the concepts do, but not the functionality. I don't know. So anyways, I guess maybe it's fine to simplify into one product, but again, it's kind of a change, and we hear it once at a town hall and we haven't heard any of the discussions over the last 6 months or whatever. So, and then a couple other things. One, what about Faction Fleet Score? It still works. It was supposed to be retired a few months ago. And there was some small comment that, well, once we get ship lending, then we'll get rid of Score. And I'm like, okay. And again, is that because the people that are still in Score with their big ships don't want to spend the time to actually go around Sage? And that's where if they had lending, then they'll pay somebody to do it for them. I mean, I guess, but just saying, Score still exists. It hasn't been taken away yet. Yeah, they reduced the emissions of Atlas, but still exists. So I don't know. It's starting to be like, what are we doing? And again, maybe this is the pivot. This is the change. This is the simplification of the product line. I mean, these are all great. But on that same, and this is my final thought, not anything that I recall hearing about the mobile app, the fitness app that we're going to walk around with our crew. And I guess I realized after thinking about it, that's pretty big. I mean, we were talking about that mobile app for a lot. That was the purpose of crew. We do this, we level them up, we move them through. But if that's not around, what's crew for then? And why would you buy crew? I mean, just buy a crew to walk around? I mean, maybe, I don't know. In retrospect, it seemed like a major omission to not put that into context for the other things like Fleet Command and Preseason Zero and I don't know, So anyway, I don't know. Maybe it was not intentional oversight, but again, nothing about that. And I thought that the mobile app and crew are what went hand in hand. So I don't know. Maybe again, all will become clear in the next few months, but that's it. So my final thought on all this, again, this is definitely one of those things of just kind of looking at what we were told, taking 2.5 hours, and like, I mean, I'm still very excited about the potential of Star Atlas. But now that we're definitely not at the beginning anymore, somewhere past the beginning, because it's been so many years. I've been in it now almost 2.5 years. And it's starting to feel like still we're many, many years from really anything engaging. Again, I've said on a few previous podcasts that finally got into Sage Starbase once I figured out Sly Assistant. Again, it's got its own quirks. I don't blame Gru for that. I mean, he's doing great work building it, to the best of my knowledge, as an open source free project. But it's great, but I have no goals in it. Once I get all my raw materials, I'm probably just going to stop because I don't know why I'm getting these raw materials. Plus, I have a feeling, even though I'll get to that in a second. But if you step back and you think about game design, and again, I'm just talking game design, forget blockchain, just game design. We know these things are not easy. They're not easy, and they take time. So if you look at things like Star Citizen, that's been in development for a long time. You look at something like Starfield, according to them, they'd been thinking about it and building it for 10 years. Think of something like GTA 4 or 5, whatever version they're on. I mean, obviously, all these games take a ton of time, but we're really not talking time. We're talking effort. It takes a ton of effort, and time can be mitigated by resources. And we know Star Atlas doesn't have the resources. They just don't. They cut their staff by 70. They added 11. That's not, it's not full back up to where they were. So I think at the end, the potential of Star Atlas is still great. I still like the concept. I still like that. But in order to realize that concept, you're going to need effort. And effort requires time and money, and those are constrained. And so it's probably going to take a lot more time to, move forward. And I guess I think we're seeing it this year. And again, I know a lot of people say, oh, well, next year it'll be all better. Again, next year is next year. It's just a guess. You can only look at what the past has been. So I think that the problem is, given the current production level, maybe that's the right word, I'm not sure. Anyways, that time is really going to be the factor going forward. And it's really hard to stay that motivated when we do look at the past and we do look at it as sort of predictor of the future. And there we are. And so, I mean, that's it. Time will tell, but that's the rub. Time. So, we'll see. It was great to get all this information. Nothing wrong with that, but that's all it was, is information. So I'll just leave it at that. So just quickly to finish up on my journey, I didn't actually do too much on mine. So I'm still continuing my next mining supply chain goal. I can't remember what I'm doing. Nitrogen. And still trying to streamline my supply chain to get it more streamlined. But it's still pretty good. It's kind of a little monotonous, but, it is what it is. So I know what I'm getting into. I haven't had any time to do the analysis of the last one for kind of see how the inputs and outputs went on the last raw materials, hopefully this weekend. But again, it's not at all a high priority because it doesn't really matter. So anyway, so that's pretty much it. I'll just leave it at that because this is my soapbox, my chance to talk. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it interesting. Hopefully you found it thought-provoking. If you didn't like it, that's okay. I don't care. You're entitled to your opinion just as I am. So there we are. So just to wrap up again, thanks for listening. If you want to see any of the articles or videos mentioned, again, there were a lot of great ones here. Please go to intergalacticherald.com. Look for news recap number 120. If you're interested in Star Atlas merch, I do have some Star Atlas mugs available on my website, intergalacticgear.com. If you're not interested in mugs, please still go and fill out my merch survey. I'd love to get some input from you on other things you might be interested in purchasing. And if you'd like to hang out with me and hopefully other people who aren't wanting to be members of Guild but nevertheless want to be Star Atlas gamers, chat with people, hoping to set up a different form of community that isn't all based on Discord and chat. And for people who aren't interested in joining guilds, please go to intergalacticcoalition.com and fill out my interest survey. Anyways, that's it. Hope that was a week in review. Hope you have a great week ahead. This is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald.